Okay, welcome to our little chat. Why don't we start with a little introduction? So, Ghazal, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. So my name is Ghazal Conrad. I am a birth coach and um, a birth coach by profession, and I am a mother to a little 1.5-year-old little girl. And my experience pretty much started when I had my little girl. I always obsessed with babies beforehand. Anything that was birth or just kids in general. I studied child psychology university. That's how you know how obsessed I was with kids. I worked in child labs. I did a lot of everything that I've done pretty much throughout before having a baby involved kids and motherhood and things like that. So, of course, when I did have a baby, that was just the telltale sign that, I have to go more in depth into this profession. And I think my birth was just something that was so out of this world that I just did not expect it to be as good as it was, that I was like, okay, the things I did obviously beforehand really helped me have an amazing birth experience. And it was probably the most positive birth experience I've had for myself and also for my partner. So I realized that, a lot of people around me had lots of negative experiences that they almost didn't believe that I had such a good experience. So I knew then that it definitely was something that I had to share. Someone actually once told me, a good friend of mine said, when you have such an important thing that you have to share, it's almost selfish not to share it. So I think that's kind of stuck with me throughout the past little while that I've started doing this. So I'm passionate about anything childbirth, about breastfeeding, about just babies and motherhood in general. So that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you. I
How
like
about you,
that.
Ayo?
It's too selfish
Okay.
not to share. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I never heard that before, but that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so my name is Ayo, and I have a business called Creating Great Health. So it's a combination of a lot of different things. So it's energy healing, specifically bioenergy healing. It's a doula work. So I've been working with clients over the last 4 years, helping them with their babies, preparing for the arrival of the babies. And then lately, I've been working with breastfeeding, and that has sort of taken the big seat in my life right now because I'm so passionate about breastfeeding. I had a very negative experience with my first. I have two children, and my first one, I was told all the wrong things, nothing worked, and it just got gradually worse and worse. And it was a very, very negative experience. So having learned this new breastfeeding program that I'm offering is a game changer. And that's, I guess, for me, if I don't share this, it's too selfish. It's like,
Yes.
I have to get this out there because so many women stop breastfeeding way before they want to, way before they plan to, simply because they're in pain. So that is one of my big things right now. It's like, I want to let everybody know that you can do this, and you can do this for however long you and your baby choose. So coming from a place having this negative experience, I know that it sucks and it doesn't feel good, and you don't have to go through this because there are better ways. So that's sort of what I've been working on the last couple of years.
Nice. Tell us about the program you're part of.
Yeah, so it's from the Thompson method. Dr. Robin Thompson, she's an Australian midwife. She's been a midwife for 50 plus years. So she's got lots and lots of experience, lots of babies, lots of watching women breastfeeding. And she has the first PhD in nipple trauma. So that's how she sort of created the Thompson method and the beautiful breastfeeding program, which is the one that I'm teaching. And it's just a very gentle approach to breastfeeding, and it challenges how things are done in the hospital, which is very often a very forceful, let's get you out the door again, like get baby feeding and then push you out so we can get the next mom's babies in and out. So
Yes.
it's very much opposite of what is commonly taught in hospitals. So just from everything from how to hold your baby and how to adjust so you're not having the nipple pain, nipple trauma, learning all this when you're pregnant so you can be prepared for the very first breastfeed. So you're not giving birth, then you have your baby and you have no idea what you're going to do. Somebody else will tell you, oh, you should just do this, but you haven't researched it ahead of time. you haven't learned it, so you're going to probably learn all the wrong things in the hospital,
And the
which a lot of
support.
people do, and it's such a shame, right? So by doing a program like this ahead of time, you know right from the get-go your rights, you know what you want, like, because you've been learning all the information, and then you can just advocate for yourself way better. So that's one of the biggest things, advocating for yourself, trusting your gut from not a fear-based perspective, but your actual gut feeling. Because a lot of people go in with it, it's like, oh, I'm so afraid of this, I'm so afraid of something else, so afraid of different interventions, ending up with a C-section, which a lot of women do, unfortunately, and some of them are maybe not the only way that baby could have been born, but it escalates, right? And it's the cascade of intervention, basically, where one thing leads to the next, and then the next, and then baby doesn't like any of that, and then we got to get baby out, and it has to happen fairly quickly because otherwise there might be some other issues. So by preparing all this in advance, you know your rights, you know how to advocate for what you want along with your partner, possible doula, or other helping person in your life there. So that's
Yeah, I'll
sort of the
speak.
gist of it.
Yeah, that was great. That I'll speak to my personal experience with the
Mm.
Thompson method as well, because that was one of the things that really attracted me to you. Because I was like, oh my God, that program is godsend. I thought that, I was so focused on my birth that I wanted this birth that I totally forgot about afterwards. I did
Yeah.
not prepare for postpartum. I didn't meal prep. I didn't plan for like breastfeeding at all, because I thought breastfeeding, everybody says comes to you naturally. And I was so determined that it was going to happen that I was like, no, my determination is going to make me like breastfeed the best way. And 2 weeks into breastfeeding, I was like, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. It was painful. I was under the supervision of my midwife, and I was under supervision of a pediatrician, and she also had a breastfeeding consultant that was part of her team. So I would meet with them every other day, and still I was in so much pain because the methods that they were teaching is methods from like years ago, and it just has not been updated. So when I got the breastfeeding Thompson breastfeeding course, and I was automatically, I was like, oh my God, this is all the stuff that you do not learn anywhere else. It's all in one place. And the support was by far the best thing I've ever experienced. And ever since then, I realized like having a support team is so important when you are breastfeeding, because it's something that doesn't come to you naturally. It's something, especially something you've never done before. It's definitely foreign to you, especially the sensations and the pains and all that stuff. So yes, I'm totally an advocate for this program and anything breastfeeding, because yeah, you have to have the support.
Yeah, and it is very different than a lot of other programs, and even different from going to see a lactation consultant after the fact that, things are not working out.
Yes.
Just because you get the program, you have it for life. You have support for life. You don't have to book new appointments, pay more money. It's not a money grab. It's not like you got to keep going, keep going. Maybe some with lactation consultants, I don't know what the cost of it is in different countries, but just one session could be 200 Canadian dollars. And it's like, that's a lot of money if you have to pay that multiple times and keep going and nothing is working, nothing is helping. And with the Thompson method, there's a private Facebook group. You can post in there any time of day. There are admins all over the world that will help you very, very quickly. So here's the link to a video, go in 10 minutes and 34 seconds, there's your answer to this question. If you have more questions about it, ask again, or we can sort of specify a little bit more if there are things that are not working. There's midwife Q&A calls that are also free to join, I think a couple of times a week. So if you have anything going on, you can jump on those calls and there'll be a midwife there to help you. So you can ask your questions and they can watch you feed your baby. They can say, oh, you need to adjust a little bit here, asking you questions about how is everything going, and sort of troubleshoot together. And it's not just like, oh, now you got the program figured out on your own. No, there's help all the time if you want it.
Yeah, and that's the thing sometimes with online courses is that it's great. There's probably a lot of information out there, but when you don't have the support system behind it, it's so hard to be able to like get support to answer questions.
Yeah.
That's why like I specifically made sure like my program is with the support of me, and anytime any the session that we work together, you have the opportunity to ask questions and talk about your fears, talk about, you know, things that might be holding you back to get to where your goal is.
Right.
But yeah, the support is definitely important.
Oh, it's huge, right? Because the way we live now, we're not living in the village anymore. We don't have the
Yeah.
support of all the women that we grew up with. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not the same. It's a lot, do it on your own, figure it out on your own. And it's almost shameful asking for help sometimes because like, oh, I should be super mom. I should be able to figure it all out. But we can't. And that's where the burnout comes and the, you know, postpartum depression or even
Yes.
worse things. And it's like, yeah, we need to get back to connecting with other women. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your program. Like, what is it that you're offering with the birthing coaching?
Sure. I know birthing coaching might be a little bit of like a term that a lot of people might not have heard of, but it's definitely something that I came across when I was pregnant. And mind you, because I love babies so much, I started preparing for my birth before I even got pregnant, kind of years before. But it actually helped because I kind of started to see what I wanted and didn't want. So that is the way I kind of put the course together, is everything that I wanted, and I kind of grabbed a little bit from here, from this course, from that course, and then just put it together. So I offer one-on-one coaching that's more customized to a specific like issue or something that's hindering a mom from having that like dream birth that they really want. But I also am offering a group coaching. So group coaching, like I said, is also you get the information, the evidence-based knowledge, but you also will get the support, and you also can make mommy friends, because that was one of the hardest things when you're pregnant or when you have your baby. It's so hard to make mom friends, and when you have especially moms who are in the same phase that you, it's so important because you can actually have other people you can relate to. So the birth coaching program is the group coaching is basically an 8-week course that we go over so in depth into things like mindset, having your support team, and how to prepare for your actual day of birth, which is so important because there's obviously afterwards where you're going to want to make sure there are certain things that you want to make sure you do, that you are at your best health, you're feeling the best, and you're making sure that you're taking care of your baby the best. So yeah, I focus a lot on hypnobirthing. I know sometimes people hear that word and they kind of think it's like, am I going to put you under hypnosis? It's nothing like that at all. Hypnobirthing is more of like you putting yourself in a state of hypnosis, where sometimes people think like it's that, oh, I'm going to make you bark like a dog. And it's nothing like that. It's definitely not like that. It's basically a very deep state of relaxation that allows you to have a more calm birth, be in more control, and actually feel more comfortable while you're in labor. Because I know sometimes, you know, labors could be long because, you know, birth is the same. So sometimes it could be long, sometimes it could be really short. But at least this way you have the tools and you have the resources and you have the support to be able to have that birth that you really want. So that's kind of like the synopsis. But yeah, I'm really excited about it because I think having a group of women, because I had that when I was pregnant and I did a course, and it was one of the best experiences I've had, to make mommy friends and to also be able to share those moments of like the highs and the lows. So that all in all was kind of the purpose of how this started.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did
Yeah, thanks.
hypnosis for my births as well.
Oh,
It was
both of them?
amazing. Well, the second one was so fast I didn't actually really have time for anything. But technically, yes, I had prepared for it. And I think for me also, just doing listening to the tracks during when you're pregnant
Mhm.
is really helpful because you just relax
Yes.
and take that fear away and just know that, you know, you can do this, you can birth, you don't have to be fearful of all these different things that may or may not happen because there's a
Yep.
lot that could happen. Doesn't mean all of it's going to happen to you.
Yep.
So, and I know like with my energy work, when I was pregnant with my first, I was in the beginning sort of very focused on, I do not want a C-section, I do not want a C-section. I kept repeating this in my head. And then some of my friends from the energy healing community, they're like, maybe you should think of it in a different way, because you're kind of manifesting this for yourself by saying you don't want it, but the universe doesn't understand not and don't. So you're basically saying C-section, C-section, C-section. And guess what? That's probably what you're going to have if you keep doing this. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll take a step back and focus on what I do want instead. So,
Yes, that is
and
one thing I learned as well.
yeah, and I had home births with both of mine, and it was just amazing. And seeing women give birth in the hospital setting is just so different from home birth. Like the intensity of everything is just like 10 times, because so many people there. It's busy after baby's born. I have the feeling that then it's calm and then you need to relax. But in the hospital, it's almost opposite. Like it just picks up in intensity. Oh, we got to do all these things, and we're running around crazy and go, go, go. And it's like, whoa, what's happening? Just take a breath, relax, enjoy the baby. You don't have to do anything.
We just went through labor.
Oh, it's crazy, right? So unless, of course, there's a medical reason, like a medical emergency where you need to do something, that's a different scenario. But if it's a normal, healthy, happy birth, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to take babies away. And that's one thing with the Thompson method, is that if you prepare for this ahead of time, one thing that Dr. Robin talks about is the 3 golden hours, which is basically your baby is born, baby's on your chest, unless there is a medical reason why baby should not be there and needs help breathing or something else, right? Baby on your chest for a minimum of 3 hours. For you to bond, baby knows you. They've been living inside of you for the last 9-10 months. They don't want to be taken away. They're gonna scream. All babies scream when they're being taken away from their mom. I see this all the time.
I know.
So you and baby together for a minimum of 3 hours, until whenever you're ready to just have the bonding to establish the first breastfeed, because that is so important to get that going right away. If you delay that, if there's all these, we'll just do a quick check. It's like, no, you can wait 3 hours. Baby's not going to change their weight. They're not going to change their height. They're not going to change their head circumference. You don't have to do that right now. You can listen to baby's lungs, baby's heart on mom's chest. It's totally fine. And so many women don't know that it's okay to say, wait,
no,
you can do this later. And that's one of the things, like, we need to empower women more and give them the knowledge so they can say, you know what, I want to do it my way, whatever that way is, because not everybody wants the same, right? And that's fine too. But knowing that you have options all the time is just, it gives you more control. It gives you more power, right?
Yeah, agreed. And that I remember the first time I watched a video on YouTube about the breast crawl. I thought that was some out of this world thing that I was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen that. Because how often do you actually see other people, having their breasts out and baby naked on them and they're crawling? So it's only like, thank God for YouTube, because you get to see these things that you never would get to see in like your daily life, unless you're a nurse. But regardless, it's like when you see that, you're like, oh my God, baby already knows what to do. Baby just needs to be on mom, and that's all it takes. And then the baby just does the rest. And yeah, like the interruptions, interventions, all of that stuff is just, it's always breaking the flow of birth and also breaking the flow of breastfeeding and that bonding. And that 3 hours is so important. I remember even from my birth, my midwife was rushing the placenta to be birthed. And I was like, can we just sit here for like 5 minutes? And so she went and got busy with other things. And then that was my way of just shooing her away. Thankfully, she let us have her time. And then when it was time, I was like, okay, I kind of feel something. She's like, okay, I think it's time. So yes, it is so important to know that you can say no, because there's so many times that we feel intimidated by the professionals, because we look up to them as like the gurus and the people that we should trust. And we sometimes forget that, hey, it's my body, it's my baby, and everything looks fine, everything seems good. So if there's no emergency, just leave us be for a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, it's almost sometimes like we don't trust ourselves enough,
Yeah.
but we trust other people to tell us what to do more than we trust our own instinct. And that's a slippery slope, right? Because you can just like hand over your experience,
Yeah.
your life to somebody else and say, hey, you decide, do whatever you want with me. And that's not really very empowering, right? So we kind of
Yeah.
want to take that power back and be in control, and well knowing that you can't control birth, but you can be in charge and you can be the one making the decisions.
Yeah.
But
Especially if
another
it's your
thing, like
first
with
birth.
humans are the only mammals that give their baby away after birth
Yes.
to somebody else. Hey, here, check out my baby. Nobody
Right.
else will do that. They will fight you off if somebody tries to come and take your baby. So
Oh,
why do we do that, right? And
yeah.
it's just kind of crazy how much we're interfering sometimes unnecessarily.
Yeah. And that's like the similar things that I also teach in my program is that is knowledge is power, but self-knowledge is self-empowerment. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing like what your body is capable of is self-empowering, is to know that, hey, like I had read that if you go into a coma and you're pregnant, and you go into labor, your body will birth the baby without you being consciously present. So if like that just set things off for me, that I was like, oh my goodness, yes, it is possible for your body to birth without you interfering in it. And a lot of times it's not even like the hospital staff interfering. It's a lot of times in our mind, we're kind of stopping ourselves from
Mm-hmm.
allowing things to just kind of flow and just relax and just breathe. And yeah, there's a lot of that we just don't practice on a daily basis. Like if you don't meditate on a daily basis, you don't know about breathing exercises. You don't know about, a lot of those things. So it's really important to get educated before you actually give birth, especially like for breastfeeding. That you
Absolutely.
don't have the time, the energy, or any of that stuff after baby is born. You have to do it before.
Yeah. Because that's when you
It's your
have
time.
more time and you can,
Yes.
especially with your first one, you don't have another toddler or anybody else
Yes.
running around disturbing you. So doing all this preparation ahead of time, what sometimes happens is the closer people get to their estimated due month, I don't like to
Mhm.
say due date because it's always wrong.
Yes.
Due month. Or do like the royals, they say, we're having a baby in the summer.
Oh, very nice.
You kind of like just take the whole like date and you gotta, it's almost like a deadline, right?
Yes.
um but anyways, like you kind of, now I lost my thread here. um
It's okay.
I don't know what I was gonna say.
The flow of birth.
The flow of birth, yeah. So like we're interfering too much, and
Mhm.
sometimes getting induced just because you're a certain number of weeks,
Yeah.
but there's no medical reason for that really. And it's just, oh, you're, sometimes they induce at 39 weeks now for no reason other than
Mhm.
39 weeks or 40 or 41 or whatever. And it also puts a bit of pressure on women, and it's almost like, oh, the due date is like the cutoff date, it's like the expiry date. And it's like, no, it's not a product that is going to go bad after this date. Some babies just need to grow a little bit more before they're born. And for myself, my babies are a month apart in pregnancy. Like I gave birth at 37.5 weeks with my first, and at 42 weeks with my second. And I was
Mm,
like, this is a big difference. Like,
that
and
is.
yeah. And sometimes you also have to look at family history, because if you look at when was I born, when was my mom born, my mom's mom, and so on, looking as far back as you can get the information, there might be a history of babies being born closer to the 42-week mark. So
Yeah.
that would be normal for you, for your family. Whereas other people, it might be normal that it's a little bit earlier. So there's no one size fits all. And even, when I have doula clients and they tell me their due date, I was like, yes, but it's, normal, within the normal range, like 37 to 42 weeks plus.
Mhm.
So they're like, no, my due date is here. I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean your baby's gonna come on that exact day. Less than 5% of babies are
Yeah.
born on the due date. So, we just don't know. So it could
Yeah.
be early, it can be late, or it can be whenever, right? Whenever baby's ready. So when we start messing with it, that's when all the complications start.
Mhm.
And you might say, oh, I'm so tired of being pregnant. I'm like, yeah, but one more
I
week,
know.
is that really gonna
Make a
be so
difference.
hard? And of course, for some people it is, and there can be a lot of stuff going on. But once you start the intervention, you might increase your risk of having a C-section or an outcome that is not the way that you really envisioned your birth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that's what you're doing too with your coaching, is like sharing that knowledge with women so they know, okay, once you start messing with it, you might make things worse for yourself and your experience might not be what you were hoping for.
Agreed. And that's actually one of the number one things I always say, even to friends, is like, don't allow interventions, because interventions are just the interruptions to birth. So whatever comes in between you and that birth is gonna just cascade into other problems or other even things that didn't exist beforehand, and now they exist and now you have to deal with them. But yeah, it also makes things harder on your partner. So if you have, like, you know, a husband or a partner that is, you know, supporting you throughout your birth journey, it's like, well, you want them, they don't want to see you in pain, they don't want to see you agonized, you know, even while breastfeeding. God, the amount of times my poor husband sat beside me and he was just so sad for me because I was crying and the baby was crying and I just wanted to breastfeed. I was like, we're gonna do this. And you know, it makes things easier when you take charge and control of your birthing journey. That also includes for the postpartum and the breastfeeding. So it all cascades into one thing towards the end. At the end, you have the baby, and now what do you do with it? So you have to be able to, you know, have the knowledge and the tools to use when the time comes. You might not need it right away, or you might never even need it, but if you do need it, you have it there and you're prepared for it. So
exactly. I know what I was going to say before now. So what happens when you get closer to your due month? The focus is on birth.
yes.
And everything that comes after that is just not in the picture. So when you're preparing for breastfeeding and anything else postpartum, do it earlier. So maybe like around 30 weeks or even before, like 30 to 35 weeks. But then you get to a point where everything is birth. That's all that it can occupy your head, right? Because I think it is like that for most people.
Yeah.
Because it's a big event. It's not a small, it's just a walk in the park. I mean, maybe for some it is, but it's a big event. It's something you're going to remember for the rest of your life. So of course it's going to take up a lot of space. But then the problem is a lot of people, if they're not preparing for all the stuff that comes after, they're kind of like, oh, now what? Now I have a baby. I prepared everything for this moment, but I have no clue what I'm going to do now. So by doing all the prep beforehand, when you're pregnant, hopefully with not too many disturbances, then you have the time. You have the time to dig into it and to do the research and to, get the mindset to what you want it to be, right? So both with coaching, with prepping for breastfeeding, with anything postpartum related, you don't know what's going to happen, but you at least have some knowledge of a little bit of everything, right? So you can say, oh yeah, I remember this, and then you can go back and look at it again, right? So so just doing the prep before it gets to the now it's only birth in my head time.
Yes. And you're right. It's the birth is the biggest moment in a woman's life, in my opinion, because it was by far the biggest transformation I've ever experienced. It was like, you're no longer the person you were that minute ago. You are now this new person that is holding a tiny little human being in your hand. So it completely changes you. And your focus is on the baby. So you don't have time to go and study or Google or go on, Facebook groups and read comments, and you don't have the time to do that. And you probably don't have the energy either. So
and you shouldn't really, like, you should be focusing on your baby and yourself. And that's sort of what the focus should be in the first, days, weeks. Depending on what culture you're from, lots of cultures, they don't really do anything in the first 30 days. And by doing anything, I mean, they don't do laundry, they don't clean the house like the mom does. And everybody helps the mom with all those kind of things. The mom looks after the baby. That's all you have to do. And in the Western world where we are, it's very much like, no, I got to do everything. It's like, no, you can't. Leave it alone. Like, get somebody else to do your laundry. Like,
we don't have that village anymore.
Yeah.
That village that they always say it takes a village to raise a kid. We don't have that anymore. So it's either you hire the people or you ask friends and family and neighbors to help you out, because people
Mhm.
are always willing to help, especially if they're moms.
Yeah.
They know what
Oh,
you're
totally.
going through.
Yeah. You
So just
know,
ask for the help.
one thing I tell all my clients is like, before you have the baby, write a list. You can even
Yes.
laminate this list. Laundry, take out garbage, vacuum, do the
Yeah.
dishes, bring a meal. Have that on your table. So whenever people come over, you can say, sure, you can hold my baby. Can you just do one of the things that we have on our
Of
list
course.
that we need to get done? And people are more than happy to do that. But if you don't
Yeah.
ask, they're not necessarily going to offer, depending on who they are, right? It's sort of,
Yeah.
do you come with that mindset of, yes, I'm going to help you with everything, and then I'll get to hold the baby or see the baby or whatever it is.
Yes.
So don't be afraid to ask for that, because I've never heard of anybody saying, no, I'm not going to do that for you,
Yeah.
People are like,
And they feel
then
kind of
maybe you should
in,
leave the house, right?
yeah. They're kind of afraid to say no because they're like,
Well,
well,
why
she
would
asked
you?
me. How can
Yeah,
I
why
say
would
no?
you? So
Exactly.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so do you want to maybe talk about like your course a little bit more and when that starts?
Sure. Yeah. So right now I'm actually doing a little bit of a special promotion. So the course that I do, the Beautiful Breastfeeding Program, it's 4 weeks, one session every 4 weeks, about an hour and a half online. And then you have access to all the Thompson Method videos. You have access to the Facebook group where you can ask questions, the Q&A midwife calls, everything for life. So once you're registered for that, you can start looking through videos and learning even before we start the actual program. The program is 249 Canadian dollars. Right now, I'm doing a promotion for only 49 if you're also doing 2 video testimonials and a Google review, just so I can get things going a little bit more. And because I really want to share this program with everybody, so I want to
Yeah.
make it accessible to whoever is interested, just because of the value of it is so amazing. And you're gonna, if you have it now for your first baby, you can use it for your second baby, third baby, or however many babies you're planning on having. So it's not something you have to keep pouring money into.
Yeah.
And one thing you can compare it to is, like, say you plan to breastfeed, but you're not actually preparing anything. And then you end up with some complications. It doesn't work out for whatever reason. And then you have to start feeding your baby non-human milk or formula. How much does formula cost per month, based on, whatever brand and type you want to buy? Maybe the same cost for doing the program is worth 2-3 months of buying formula. So or lactation consultants, you know,
Oh,
you don't know until you know, basically.
yes.
But so I do have the next program starting on August 3rd. So if anybody's interested in joining that and want to do it for the 49 Canadian, with the testimonial included in that, I will put a link to my website on the recording after, and we can put one for yours as well, so people can get in contact with us if they're interested. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wish I had this program when I had my kids, because I had so many issues. I think it took probably 8 to 10 weeks with my son before I was not in pain, and before I was not, okay, I gotta feed, take a deep breath, and then like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I gotta do this, and then okay, it was so hard, and it shouldn't be like that. And I really wish that people knew they didn't have to be in pain. Like, it can be done pain-free. And even if you do have a little bit of pain, we can help adjusting so it doesn't get worse, but better. And that's such a big thing. Is like, oh, just suck it up, it has to be hard. It's like, no, it doesn't. And that's what I heard a lot. I remember one woman, she told me, oh, before you have your baby, you need to take a towel and start rubbing your nipples. And I was like, oh, why would I do
That's
that?
rough.
Or just to make them like almost like numb, so you're not going to feel anything. I was like, no, that doesn't sound right to me. I don't want to do that.
I
And
just
that's,
felt
it's
that.
such a weird thing to say. And I was just kind of surprised. I'm like, no, I sure, yeah. And then I didn't do it because I was like, no, that can't be nice. Why would you do that? So all these sort of things that are passed down, oh, it's hard, it just has to be that way. It's like, no, it really doesn't. You can do it beautifully and nicely and without any pain or without much pain, and get the help that you need. So that's really the biggest reason why I want to share this, because I don't like to see people in pain. I don't like to see my clients when they have their baby and they have a beautiful birth and then they end up with complications afterwards because they didn't prepare for the breastfeeding part of it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
August 3rd in 4 weeks is the next
Very
one.
nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting
Yeah.
because it's definitely something that people don't prepare for before giving birth. I think it's always something that's like, okay, we'll worry about that when we get to it. So
Exactly. Yeah. We'll
definitely,
see. We'll see how we go. And it's like,
yes,
you can do that. That's fine. You
yeah,
totally can. But then
yeah.
tell your
If you're
next baby.
exactly, and if you're convinced that you're gonna breastfeed, you're gonna want to take this course so that you are like have all the knowledge and all the tools. Like it's not just about reading and learning about what's breastfeeding or how to position the baby. It's actually the tools to do what you need to do to breastfeed the baby.
Mhm.
And the
And
support
it's
is
also not
amazing.
a one size fits all. It's catered
Yeah.
to every unique woman. So whenever, for example, there is the Q&A calls with the midwife,
Mhm.
it's not just like, oh, everybody should do it this way. It's like, no, we're looking at you specifically
Yes.
in your situation and your baby because you are unique. So we're
Yes.
working with you. And then when we've helped you, then we'll help the next person with their unique situation. So it's not just like, oh, everybody just do it the same way because it might not work for everybody that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love their support group because I've asked so many questions in that group before that I'm like, thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
responding so quickly, especially when you're in the heat of moment, the baby's crying and you need some help and you're just like, okay, somebody help me, please. I'm doing this, this, and this, and it's not working. So
Yeah,
yeah, the support is definitely great too.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe share about your program then.
yeah, for sure. So my program is 8 weeks and it is going to be starting at the end of August. So the program based, like I said, it's very in depth. So each week we're going into a specific topic. I have convinced my husband to be part of the program
Nice.
because I think it's so important for partners to be on the same page with you and to also have some basic knowledge of things. Yes, the husbands and partners are great to support you, but if they don't know how to support you, then it's really hard for them. So you can make that job a lot easier for them for the moment when you're in the heat of the moment and you're deep into like labor and you can't really verbalize. You're just kind of screaming and yelling maybe and you're kind of needing that person to do what you've asked them from before. So yeah, I definitely got my husband involved in this
Excellent. I like
unwillingly,
that.
but I thought it would be very nice for the partners to hear like a husband's perspective to see like, hey, like my husband was very anxious and we got a doula just for him so that he was supported because he was just like, I'm going to pass out. I'm going to, it wasn't going to go the way he thought it was going to go. And especially because I had a home birth, it was like, the fears of what could go wrong. So yeah, the program is based on like natural birthing, but it definitely is techniques that you can use wherever you decide to give birth. My thing is that a home birth is always in a way easier because you don't have anybody interrupting, but you can always stay home longer if you do decide you have to give birth in the hospital or a birthing center. So the program basically goes into in depth a lot in mindset. So yeah, if you've never meditated before, this is going to be all new stuff for you. But there's a lot of mindset work that we get into. Like I said, there's the section where we go into like the support team, your partner, your medical staff, whoever you choose to be there at your birth. And a lot of preparation for the day of. So I know it's the day of that everybody is concerned about and wants to know how is it going to go? What do I need to do? So there's a lot of science-based evidence that I've included in there and a lot of techniques and things that you could do to actually have the easiest and most relaxed birth. Like my labor altogether was 70 minutes. And when I tell people that, they just don't understand. They just like, what? I thought it takes like 24 to 48 hours. Like, no,
For some it
the
does.
the whole thing was just, and that's why I'm like, it was so quick and so amazingly easier than I thought it was going to be that I have to share this information, all that I've learned. And one of the things with the other courses was that there wasn't anything for after, like you said, like with like breastfeeding, with having what to do with a baby. So there's a little bit of that as well towards the end, but it's mostly focused on the birth day, because that, like, it's going to be a day you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and it's going to completely transform you of the person you are. So it's like the butterfly gets out of the cocoon and it's now a butterfly. You're not that person ever again. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and it's the cost of the program is $497, but I'm doing a promo for everybody that does join within the next week, for $297. So that would be the course that starts at the end of August. But I do also offer the one-on-one coaching that is more personalized. So we can always talk about that after, on a more private basis. But yeah, that is the gist of it. I'm really excited about the group coaching because, like I said, the support of other women being in the same like phase of pregnancy is so helpful and so valuable. So
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that sounds great. So
yeah, thanks.
definitely remember that too, because I did the hypno babies training, and being in a group setting is just so much different than doing it on your own, because you get to chat about, even if you're not exactly due around the same time, you can still have those conversations like, how are you preparing, what are you doing, what are you eating, how are you exercising, all these different things, and stay in contact after the baby is born too is really valuable. So that's great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, likewise. So yeah, I think, do you have anything else you want to share right at the end here?
No, there is actually a free, I do have a free birth planner that I put together because I'm a very visual person. So my birth plan was very visual as well, like images and had icons. So I created this whole thing. So I thought I'd share that. I can include that freebie in the link that I can send you.
Okay.
And basically it's you can create it on Canva if you're not familiar with it. I have a video tutorial for it, but it's super easy. You can print it or email it to your birth team and go over it. It'll basically have all the stuff that you do want and the things you don't want to happen during your birth and labor. So yeah, it's definitely beneficial to have that ready before birth.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to say to everyone who's listening that, you know, it's your experience, it's your birth, it's your baby, it's your body. So you are in charge. Like, you decide what is going to happen. And right now we're talking a lot about consent in the world in general, right? And birth goes under that too. It's like nobody can do anything to you without you saying, yes, that's okay. So all the vaginal exams, sweeping of the membranes, rupturing the waters, all those kind of things, if you don't agree to that ahead of time, it's a hard no. Like, you can say no, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks.
We'll see you. Chat soon.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye.